Hey there, Anna Bass here, licensed massage therapist, certified holistic health coach. Sitting outside on my lanai and wanted to put together a little video for you going over fajas and accessories and things that you need for post-op care. So after surgery, a lot of times you wake up from anesthesia already in a garment that your doctor has somehow managed to get you into before you're actually awake. That is actually known typically usually as what is called a stage 1 garment. It's good for coming home with, and the first couple of days of your post-op healing. Generally speaking, between day 7 to day 10, you would want to move from a stage 1 garment into something called a stage 2 garment. Technically, there's a pretty significant difference in the fabric quality between stage 1 and stage 2. Stage 1 is more like a Spanx type garment, whereas stage 2 is more like therapeutic compression. And you know, it's like the difference is like from preschool to high school difference. A therapeutically tight stage 2 garment should take some effort to get into, kind of almost like you're going to work up a sweat getting into it. You may feel the need to tag out and get somebody to help you get into that garment, but the general rule of thumb is with the stage 2 garment, as far as how tight it should be, if you can get your finger between the garment and your skin, the garment is too loose. Okay, all right. So we'll talk a little bit more about the fajas and their purpose. We'll also talk a little bit about lipo foams, why they're needed, and then also we'll talk a little bit about ab boards and back boards. Okay. A lot of times, or prior to making this video, I used to refer my clients to something called Faja University, which is available on YouTube. It's a whole series of videos that was put together by Ty Hall. In the United States, she's probably the leading expert on all things post-op. And so I'm going to try to sum up all of those videos into one sort of shorter, more user-friendly video for you. Anyhow, the reason that you need a faja after surgery is because your body is inflamed. It is going to be producing fluid to put that fire out. In addition to that, when you have something like lipo, the surgeon often will inject something called tumescent fluid under your skin for the purpose of actually doing the surgery. So you have all this extra fluid, okay? So the first thing that we use a faja for is to keep that fluid in your body from coming to the surface of the skin, because if it's allowed to do that and it stays, then it has a tendency to get hard and to develop into something that we call fibrotic tissue. Fibrotic tissue is generally painful. It is firm. It takes your skin from feeling normal and human to something that's lumpy and bumpy. It's not necessarily pleasant if somebody goes in and tries to work the fibrotic tissue out. So we try using the garment to keep the fibrotic tissue from forming in the first place. So again, it's to compress you so that the fluid does not come to the surface of the skin, okay? The second feature of the faja is for contouring purposes, okay? So, as Ty, I got this expression from her. She calls it the woo period. It's the window of opportunity, okay? So, right now, right after surgery, your body is almost like molding clay. It is going to form itself next to whatever is next to it, okay? And so you can use a faja for creative contouring. You can also use it to maximize the magic of this little woo period. The woo period is about 6 weeks to 8 weeks post-op, okay, where we can use your garment to actually whittle away your waist and shrink you down in size, okay? So as soon as your garment starts to get loose, if you're within that 6 to 8 week time frame, you want to size down, all right? So those are the purposes primarily for the faja itself. Again, it's to keep the fluid from coming to the surface of the skin. That's first and foremost. And then the second objective is for contouring, okay? Now, the next thing that we talk about a lot with any kind of post-op garments would be lipofoams. So, as I said, your body conforms to whatever is next to it. So, suppose you get up in the morning and you put your faja on, you've washed it and dried it magically while you were taking a shower, and you go to put it on and it's nice and tight because it just came out of the dryer, just like a pair of jeans. As you are moving around throughout the course of the day, sitting, standing, and so forth and so on, that material, that fabric starts to loosen up a little bit. So if it gets a wrinkle in it, that wrinkle can actually be picked up into your tissue and cause a scar, okay, or can cause fibrotic tissue to form where the wrinkle is, okay? If you happen to have a short torso and you're having trouble, and just naturally if the garment has extra wrinkles in it. So the foam's purpose primarily is to protect your skin from any faja irregularities, okay? So it's to protect you from the faja itself. It can also be used for some creative contouring. I will say here that the clients that I've gotten who have paid for high definition lipo, sometimes I think the only difference is that they will configure foams in such a way that they actually create a scar tissue, okay, using the foams. Sometimes foam can be used to eliminate a seroma. That depends on where the seroma is. Whether that can happen, and just in case you're curious, a seroma is just a contained pocket of fluid. I usually tell people, when we talk about seromas, just to kind of visualize, everybody's had a blister on their foot. It's a little pocket of pus, okay, but a pocket of fluid on the outside that you see. So a seroma is on the inside. It's just this contained pocket, okay? It's got fluid in it. My general belief on seromas is that they form by nobody's fault of anybody. They just happen. It's not your surgeon's fault. It's not your massage therapist's fault. It's not your fault. It's not because they pulled the drain too soon. Sometimes they happen, okay? Now, where the seroma is determines whether or not you can actually use your garment and foams to kind of try to heal it up on your own, okay? Say it's next to your sacrum, low back. You can compress against bone that way, okay? You're pushing against something that's hard. And same way, if you were to push against a blister with your thumb and kind of give this equidistant pressure on it, the blister is going to open up and the pus is going to come out. With lymphatic drainage, because it's a contained pocket of fluid, lymphatic drainage actually doesn't pick up that fluid. But if we can compress it and get the fluid to kind of escape that little containment, then lymphatic drainage can actually pick up that fluid, because it kind of goes into your body just as interstitial fluid, the same way as all the other fluid is post-op that we're working with, okay? But say you have a seroma on your abdomen. You can't really compress hard against the abdomen because there's nothing behind it to give that pushback, okay? So seromas are very easy. If we can't deal with it with, some creative garment techniques. You know, you go see your doctor, they usually will put some type of topical numbing solution on, and then they just use a hypodermic needle to draw that fluid out, and then once the fluid has been removed, they slap a band-aid on it. It's not painful, it's non-invasive, it's not really a big deal, okay, if you should happen to get one, all right? So anyway, the foams, again, they are to protect your skin from any irregularities that occur in the garment, all right? You should have 360-degree foam, because your faja is 360 degrees, okay? The other thing, tool that a lot of people will use is something called an ab board and a backboard. I almost always recommend ab boards for my clients who've had tummy tucks. I almost always recommend backboards for my clients who have BBLs. So, you know, that fluid that we've talked about, gravity will affect the fluid. And in this instance, talking about gravity, your faja and your foams really do not protect you against the effects of gravity. So when you're standing up or you're sitting up, that fluid is naturally going to drop down and settle into your lower abdomen. It will settle into your low back, okay? There's nothing really there to keep that fluid from doing that. So that's where the boards come into play. They actually act as a hard stop for that fluid. The foam has a little bit of give to it. The faja has a little bit of a give to it, okay? Whereas the board does not, okay? BBL people are notorious for collecting a lot of fluid there in the lower back. And then in addition to that, with a tummy tuck, you've got that incision line there. The musculature is weak. It helps to give some extra support there as well, in addition to helping to keep that fluid out of that area. Another piece of garment that a lot of people like to use, and this is on a, you know, personal level, and that would be something like a compression tank top or a compression camisole, okay? Foams don't wash out very easily, you want to, you know, a lot of times people want to have a layer of fabric next to their skin to protect from, you know, low-grade bacteria, eczema, and so forth and so on. It's a lot easier to wash those things. But it couldn't be a shirt like this, anything that's going to bunch up or cause any kind of a wrinkle. It has to be skin tight and very form-fitting, okay? So going from the skin out, what you would want is, you know, your compression tank top or your compression camisole first, okay? The next layer out would be your lipo foams, okay? And then you would have your ab board and your back board. You would just, here's a little point of a couple things about that. You would never want to put the board directly next to your skin, because you don't want to create an imprint of the board on your tissue. The other thing with the boards is, because they're for the purposes predominantly of protecting you from the effects of gravity, when you're laying down at night, gravity's not in play, okay? So you do not necessarily need to wear your boards when you're trying to sleep at night. And then, of course, you've got your faja, okay? So again, going skin out, compression tank or camisole, lipofoams, ab and back boards, and then your faja. There are a lot of different styles of fajas. I tend to steer my clients to the kind that have multiple rows of hook and eyes. That way it's not just one size, okay? You have a little bit of play with making some adjustments, all right? So you can wear it for a little bit longer. Another thing that I try to tell my clients, you know, again, referencing Ty Hall, cosmetic procedures, not a cheap girl sport. A good stage 2 faja is going to run you, you know, 180 bucks. They're not inexpensive. So say day 7 to day 10, you move into that stage 2 garment, okay, the first one. And then you're slowly tightening it up as swelling is going down, all right? When that garment gets loose, you need to go get into a smaller stage 2 garment, okay? The garment that you just got out of, the first stage 2 garment, I would recommend that you take that and get that altered, okay? Size down. So when you get out of the second stage 2 garment, you immediately already have one waiting and ready for you to move into. So by doing it this way, you get 2 wears out of every single faja that you buy, okay? You typically can only alter a faja one time, okay? Because after that, it sort of loses its therapeutic compressive ability. Now, how long should you wear the faja? Every doctor is going to tell you something different. My general rule of thumb is that you want to be in your garment 23 hours a day for the first 8 weeks, okay? And once you go into the stage 2 faja, if you've got it on, you need your foams on. Once you hit that 8-week mark, then you and the mirror basically have a conversation. It really boils down to touching the skin that's been operated on versus touching skin that has not had surgery. Do they feel the same? Okay. If they do feel the same, you know, a good healthy feel, no lumps, no bumps, and so forth and so on, then that's a yes. Then you ask yourself the next question, and that would be, do you love your results? Okay, not just like, or they're okay. I mean, love your body, okay? So if you get a yes on both of those things, then you can start titrating down, you know, weaning yourself off of the garment. Generally speaking, most people will stop wearing their garments at night, but they still maintain wearing those during the day. And then once you make that transition, then it's this gradual wean down process. Okay. Now, in a few other videos I've talked to you about, it takes about 3 months for some of the lymphatic system vessels to heal up. So I would tell you, in your mind, you need to kind of have it in your head that you're going to have that garment on you for, you know, all the time. The first 8 weeks, you're only taking it off for your massages and taking it off for your shower. But then the last 4 weeks, you know, as you're tight, you know, you still want to have it on. You still want to be giving your body some support while your body's kind of getting used to actually being without the support. Some people find that even after that 12-week mark, depending on the type of surgery they've had, they still need a little bit of support, like if they're working out and so forth and so on. You know, they're still having just a little bit of swelling. So that's more done and decided on an individual basis. Let's see, is there anything else I wanted to share? Oh, the most dangerous post-op garment out there, in my professional opinion, is a binder, okay, or a waist trainer. The faja provides equidistant compression, 360 degrees around your body. Waist trainer is going to fall short of that. In addition, you can get hard lines at the top and the bottom of the waist trainer. And they definitely don't protect against the effects of gravity. I did have a client once who she'd had a tummy tuck and a muscle repair, absolutely hated her faja. And anyway, she was doing her healing was very normal. I always tell people, post-op healing is a place where you do not want drama. You do not want issues to come into play, okay? This is where you want things to be boring. So anyway, she's 3 to 4 weeks in from her surgery. She comes for her appointment, practically bouncing across the driveway. I was like, oh, what put a pep in your step today? And she's like, oh, that faja was driving me crazy. So in the middle of the night, I took it off and I put my waist trainer on. Do you want to see it? It's like, yeah, sure. So anyway, it was the kind that has like this long tail that you just wrap around like an ace bandage, wrap around. She's peeling this thing off, and I'm like, how long does that tail go? Anyway, when she was standing up, I didn't really notice anything. I was like, oh, okay, all right. Well, I'm glad you were more comfortable with it. But when she laid down on the table and I started working on her, The difference in her left side to the right side of her abdomen was about 3 inches. Okay. So as she's pushing that or pulling that tail of the binder around, she's pushing from one side and pulling it around and pushing and, pulling it. She literally had pushed all the tissue from the one side of her abdomen over to the other side. Now, had she been a lipo client, I actually could have pushed the tissue back. But because she was a tummy tuck client with a muscle repair, I couldn't do that. And, a lot of what we can do is determined by how far along you are in the process and what you've had done. So here she is, absolutely hating her garment in the first place, and what we had to do was like triple up the foam on the one side where the tissue was higher, and like gradually encourage it to go back over to where it was in the first place. It caused a really big problem for her. I stay away from waist trainers. I think that kind of covers all of it. You definitely do want to be wearing a garment. I would say if you had to choose between affording garments or massages, that's your choice because of cost, and you didn't know about this stuff when you were planning all of this out. I would say get the garments before the massages. Okay. That's how important they are to your post-op body and to your overall end result. You for the most of my clients adapt fairly well to their garments. I actually have clients who, once they start wearing them, don't want to stop. There are certain ethnic groups of people, women, who wear their garments all the time anyway. But it's short-term pain for long-term gain. Okay, it's protecting your investment, and it's a really, really, really good idea to do it. I'll tell you another story about a client I had. So she was over 60, and she had she had breast implants put in her, when she was young. Had started to develop migraine headaches, and the only thing she could figure out or think to resolve the headaches after exhausting every other possible cause was that it was from her original old breast implants. So she decided she wanted to get those removed, and while she was at it, she was going to get a tummy tuck. So anyway, I saw her like 2 or 3 days right after her surgery, and I gave her the garment talk, the one I just gave to you guys. And so she and her husband were going to go buy a stage 2 garment in Tampa. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll be happy to see it the next time you come in. So when she came back in for her appointment, I was like, so how did it go getting the new garment? And she said, well, I talked it over with my husband, and we decided we weren't going to do that. And I was like, huh? And then she goes, I'm old. I didn't do this because I wanted to look good in a bikini, and I just don't care about any of that. And I'm still sitting there going, and she's like, it's okay, Anna. She goes, you can tell me what you think. And I was like, I have so many thoughts running through my head right now. I actually don't know which one to verbalize first. And I was like, okay. I was like, all right, first off, I have no idea how much money you spent on this procedure. And then she says, $20,000. I was like, okay, $20,000 you spent for this new body. Again, the garment is going to protect that $20,000 investment, giving you the best result that you can get from it. I hear you. I just don't care about any of that. I was like, okay, fine, fair point. As long as you come to see me, I will work on any tissue issue that arises. while you're going through the healing process. And she's like, okay, so we have an understanding. I can't force somebody to wear a garment that doesn't want to wear one. So I'm working on her, this is all in the same session. And so she did say to me, she goes, do you think when the swelling goes down, my breasts will look larger? And it's like, you got the implants removed and the swelling goes down, they're only even going to get smaller. And I was like, no. And she said, well, that's the only thing I really don't like. I've always had these implants, I've always had a big chest, and now I don't. This is something new to get used to. So I said, well, while I can't make your breasts any larger, with optical illusion, if we can whittle, shrink, snatch your waist, your breasts will automatically look larger. By the way, for all of you who are thinking about getting a BBL, just know the smaller your waist is, the bigger your butt looks, okay? So anyhow, that caught her attention. That resonated with her. And I am telling you, she and her husband made a game out of trying to see just how small of a faja they could fit her in. She's like, I lay down on the bed and I suck it in, and he hooks my hooks up, and anyway, she wound up with a really, really, really great result. Okay, so those garments are extremely helpful. I've seen people. Sometimes I have trouble talking somebody into sizing down. I'm your coach, and you can go from wearing a garment one size, going to the next size lower, and lose 3 inches in a 24-hour time frame. Okay, it's significant. If you don't like your boxy frame that you have, you wanted curves, use your garments creatively. Okay, make the most bang for your buck in that 6 to 8 week time frame with your garment care. Okay, all right, so I've kept you here long enough. I appreciate your time. If you have any additional questions, you are more than welcome to reach out to me. My cell phone work number is 412-328-4540. You can always find me online at annabasslmt.com and then at tampabay-massage.com. Okay? Anyway, I hope that you got some really good information out of this. All right? Thanks a lot. Take care. Have a good day.